Today, I would like to talk about two very similar but very different points in history. These would be the Pentagon Papers and WikiLeaks. Pentagon Papers and WikiLeaks are very similar yet very different in the way they were leaked, what the information contained was leaked, and the administrations at the time. Let's start with the Pentagon Papers. Pentagon Papers were leaked by a guy named Daniel Ellsberg. Ellsberg had leaked these papers to the New York Times and showed America for the first time that our government hides stuff from us, and not always for the greater good. The Pentagon Papers showed how the Vietnam War and how Vietnam conflicts went back to the 1950s, and how a lot of this information was faked and falsified, and how our reasons for being in Vietnam were totally unnecessary. WikiLeaks, on the other hand, leaked information about the Afghanistan War or the War on Terror and showed stuff that we kind of already knew, but information that the government didn't want us to know anyway, such as our torture methods, how we use waterboarding to get information out of our terrorists, and many other things, including the Hillary Clinton scandal. The way the administrations at the time handled these leaks was very different. For example, during the Nixon administration, Nixon used what he called plumbers to clean up the situation, and the Supreme Court ruled that these methods were unnecessary. He also said that it was also said in the court that Daniel had the right to leak these papers because the government was lying to us. And I think in, today, WikiLeaks showed that the government lied to us, and we knew that, but the way the Obama administration, how they handled the problem was totally different. Edward Snowden is now a fugitive, and he now resides in Russia because of he's been labeled a traitor. He has 2 counts against him on the of espionage from the 1917 Espionage Act, and is a common criminal. There's many people that support him and his cause, even Daniel Ellsberg. He said he's pleaded with the Obama administration to drop the charges and pardon him. Also, there was a story that was published in 2016 that showed that the original investigators to the Watergate scandal wanted him to be pardoned and said that Obama was being too difficult on Edward Snowden. Another difference in these two historical periods is that WikiLeaks was leaked on the internet, and Pentagon Papers was leaked to the press directly. And the way that these forms had gotten to the public was different. For example, the internet, anybody can look at it, so the whole world knew as soon as these documents were put on WikiLeaks. It took a while for the Pentagon Papers to get around, but they were mainly broadcast in newspapers and on television. Another way in which they are similar is that, another way they are different is that public support for these two men are very different. Daniel Ellsberg had a lot of public support for him during the Pentagon Papers because the public was shocked at the time and would never think that our government would lie stuff to us. According to the textbook, in a poll taken in the 60s, 75% of Americans believed that our government had our national interest, our best interest at heart. After the Pentagon Papers was leaked, that percentage went way down and people started to question the government. WikiLeaks, on the other hand, America was used to scandal and the government spying on us, but people viewed the WikiLeaks as just another walk in the park. It's not a big deal, but the files contained on WikiLeaks is a very big deal, and so much of a big of a deal that the American government thought it necessary to charge Edward Snowden with espionage. The American government said that these documents were harmful and put many people's lives at risk. For example, according to WikiLeaks itself, some of the files that were leaked were about America spying on other countries themselves, which, as the American government, I could see why they hate Snowden and hate WikiLeaks. But it just shows historically the point that even from the Eisenhower administration, that the American government has its own personal needs that it likes to look after. So, in conclusion, these two historical periods are very different, they're very similar,